When we think of Queen Victoria, we often picture the formidable matriarch in black ruling an empire at its zenith. But beyond the crown lay a powerful personal ambition shared with her beloved Prince Albert to reshape the royal houses of Europe through their children. Together they had 9 children, 5 daughters and 4 sons, a sprawling royal nursery whose lives would span continents, endure immense personal tragedies, and influence the course of European history for generations. They would marry into the ruling families of Germany, Russia, Sweden, and more, earning Victoria the nickname the Grandmother of Europe. I am Dr. Amy Boyington, and today we will delve into the individual stories of Victoria and Albert's remarkable children, the princesses and princes who navigated the complexities of duty, dynasty, and personal desires, leaving an indelible mark on the royal landscape of the world. Though Queen Victoria had 9 children, she held strong and largely negative opinions regarding both childbirth and breastfeeding. She famously described pregnancy and childbirth as the shadow side of marriage, a necessary but deeply unpleasant ordeal she endured 9 times. She found the process itself to be distasteful and often expressed feelings of being overwhelmed and unwell during her pregnancies. Her aversion extended equally to breastfeeding, which she found repugnant, considering it animalistic and an undignified act. Consequently, unlike many women of her era, she famously refused to breastfeed any of her children, opting instead to employ wet nurses for her babies. This stance reflected a broader aristocratic practice, but it also highlighted her personal distaste for the physical realities of early motherhood, creating a detachment from the very earliest stages of her children's lives. Queen Victoria and Prince Albert adopted a parenting style that was highly structured, disciplined, and deeply rooted in Albert's intellectual and moralistic ideals. Albert in particular was the driving force, meticulously overseeing his children's education and moral development, believing in a rigorous academic curriculum combined with physical activity and a strong sense of duty. He aimed to raise not just heirs, but enlightened and virtuous rulers for Europe. Victoria, while deeply loving, largely deferred to Albert's methods, often finding the demands of motherhood overwhelming and preferring the intellectual companionship of her husband. This led to an upbringing that, by modern standards, might appear formal and emotionally distant, with limited spontaneous affection and a heavy emphasis on proper conduct and learning. Their children were constantly reminded of their exalted lineage and the dynastic responsibilities that awaited them, shaping their lives from the earliest age under a system designed to produce ideal constitutional monarchs. The first to be born was Victoria, Princess Royal, in 1840, known as Vicky. She was Victoria and Albert's intellectual darling. Highly intelligent and inquisitive, she was Albert's favourite and his greatest hope. She was very well educated to become a beacon of liberal constitutional monarchy on the European stage. At just 17 years old, she married Prince Frederick Wilhelm of Prussia in 1858, a union intended to forge strong ties between Britain and Prussia, the rising power in Germany. Vicky embraced her role with dedication, tirelessly promoting liberal ideals and British values in her adopted homeland. However, she faced immense challenges in the conservative Prussian court, often clashing with Bismarck and her own son Wilhelm, the future Kaiser Wilhelm. The death of her beloved father Albert profoundly impacted her, deepening her commitment to his ideals. Her greatest heartbreak came when her husband, Frederick III, ascended the German throne in 1888, only to die of throat cancer after just 99 days as emperor. This year of the 3 emperors saw her rise and fall with an agonizing swiftness. Her relationship with her son, the new Kaiser Wilhelm II, became increasingly strained. He resented her English liberal leanings and often publicly undermined her. Vicky lived out her final years isolated, a tragic figure who saw many of her cherished liberal dreams for Germany crushed by her own son's autocratic ambitions. She died in 1901, shortly after her mother. The second child to be born was Albert Edward in 1841, who was always known as Bertie, the Prince of Wales. He was a constant source of anxiety and disappointment to his exacting parents. Unlike Vicky, Bertie dislikes serious study and intellectual pursuits, preferring social engagements, fashion, and sport. His parents' hopes for him were shattered by his perceived idleness and a string of well-publicised personal scandals, particularly after the premature death of Prince Albert, which Victoria unfairly blamed on Bertie's youthful indiscretions. Despite his strained relationship with his mother, who largely excluded him from affairs of state, Bertie built his own sphere of influence. He became a leading figure in London society, known for his charm, wit, and cosmopolitan tastes. In 1863, he married the beautiful Princess Alexandra of Denmark, a popular figure who brought grace and warmth to his often turbulent life. Upon Victoria's death in 1901, Bertie finally ascended the throne as Edward VII at the age of 59. Despite his earlier reputation, he proved to be a surprisingly effective and popular monarch. He cultivated strong diplomatic ties across Europe, using his vast network of royal relatives. His nieces and nephews, now ruling Russia, Germany, Norway, Sweden, Greece, and Romania, to foster international understanding. His talent for personal diplomacy earned him the nickname Uncle of Europe. His reign marked a bridge between the Victorian age and the tumultuous 20th century, a period of transition that would see many of the royal houses he cherished brought to their knees. Victoria and Albert's third child was Alice Maud Mary, born in 1843. Princess Alice was the most empathetic and compassionate. She possessed a strong sense of duty and a deep capacity for tenderness, particularly evident in her devoted care for her dying father, Prince Albert. In 1862, she married Prince Louis of Hesse, later Grand Duke Louis IV. Alice embraced her role in her adopted Grand Duchy, focusing her energies on social welfare and public health. She was a pioneer of nursing and public health, establishing organisations for women's education and nursing, even assisting personally during the Austro-Prussian War of 1866. Her children, 7 in total, were Victoria, Elizabeth, Irene, Ernest Louis, Frederick, Alex, and Mary, known as May. Alice's life, however, was marked by immense personal tragedy that profoundly affected her and the wider European royalty. Her younger son, Prince Friedrich, tragically died at just 2 years old in 1873 after falling from a window. He suffered from haemophilia, and his injuries were exacerbated by that condition. And then, only 5 years later, in 1878, a diphtheria epidemic swept through her family, claiming the life of her youngest daughter May, and finally Alice herself at the age of 35 after she had nursed her children. She died on the 17th anniversary of her father's death, December the 14th, a date forever etched in Victoria's memory. The legacy of Alice's children, however, extended far beyond her own short life. 2 of her daughters, Irene and Alex, inherited the haemophilia gene from their mother, becoming carriers. Irene passed it to her sons, and more famously, Alex would marry Tsar Nicholas II, becoming Empress of Russia. Her obsessive devotion to her haemophilic son Alexei and her reliance on the mystic Rasputin would play a significant, ultimately destructive role in the downfall of the Romanov dynasty. Furthermore, Alice's daughter Elizabeth, known as Ella, who married Grand Duke Sergei Alexandrovich of Russia, and Alex would both meet tragic fates, brutally murdered by the Bolsheviks during the Russian Revolution. Victoria and Albert's 4th child, Prince Alfred, the Duke of Edinburgh, was born in 1844, and he was affectionately known as Affy, and he was a quiet, somewhat reserved prince with a deep passion for the Royal Navy. He pursued a distinguished naval career. In 1874, he made a significant dynastic marriage to Grand Duchess Maria Alexandrovna of Russia, the only daughter of Emperor Alexander II. This union was highly anticipated, but Maria found the British court dull and struggled to adapt. She was surprised to discover that she had to yield precedence to the Princess of Wales and all of Queen Victoria's daughters, and she demanded that she take precedence before the Princess of Wales, the future Queen Alexandra, because she considered the Princess of Wales's family, who were Danish royals, to be inferior to that of her own. Queen Victoria refused this demand, yet granted her precedence immediately after the Princess of Wales. Upon the death of his uncle, Affi inherited the Duchy of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha in 1893, becoming a reigning duke. His later years were shadowed by his difficult relationship with his children and the tragic suicide of his only son Alfred in 1899. In 1846, Victoria and Albert's fifth child was born, Princess Helena, known as Lechen. By many accounts, she was the most conventional and dutiful. She possessed a practical, stable, and deeply dutiful nature that endeared her greatly to her parents, particularly to her mother. In 1866, Helena married Prince Christian of Schleswig-Holstein. While Christian was a minor German prince without significant dynastic power, their union was primarily a love match, and crucially, it fulfilled Queen Victoria's desire to keep her daughter close to home. The couple resided at Frogmore House in Windsor Great Park, allowing Helena to remain a constant presence and indispensable companion to her grieving mother after Albert's death. She often served as Victoria's unofficial secretary, managing correspondence, typing, and assisting with documents, a quiet but tireless service that became invaluable to the widowed queen. Beyond her domestic duties, Helena dedicated her life to extensive philanthropic work, embodying the Victorian ideal of royal service through tireless charity. She became an exceptionally prominent figure in the nursing movement, serving as president of the Royal British Nurses Association for over 20 years, tirelessly advocating for better training and regulation for nursing. She also played key roles in the British Red Cross, the Young Women's Christian Association, and various other charitable organisations focused on public health and social welfare. Helena and Christian had 5 children, though 2 sons sadly died young. While her life may not have been marked by the dramatic geopolitical tensions of Vicky's or the personal tragedies of Alice, Helena's unwavering commitment to family and public service provided a quiet strength within the sprawling royal network. She was a steadfast, compassionate figure who lived a long life, passing away in 1923. Next, we have Princess Louise, who was born in 1848. She was Victoria and Albert's 6th child. She quickly distinguished herself as the most unconventional and artistically inclined of the royal siblings. Unlike her more dutiful sisters, Louise chafed against the rigid protocols of court life, possessing a sharp wit, an independent mind, and a genuine passion for the arts. She pursued painting and, most notably, sculpture, even attending the National Art Training School, now the Royal College of Art, a pursuit highly unusual for a princess of her era. Her artistic talents were considerable, and she was a proponent of artistic education for women, using her position to champion these causes. In 1871, Louise defied royal tradition by marrying John Campbell, Marquess of Lorne, later the 9th Duke of Argyll, a non-reigning aristocrat rather than a European prince. This groundbreaking union, reportedly based on mutual affection and a desire for a less constrained life, signalled a remarkable departure from the dynastic marriages of her siblings. While their marriage was childless, it offered Louise a degree of freedom and a life less bound by royal protocol. Her most significant public role, alongside her husband, came when he served as Governor General of Canada, from 1878 to 1883. In Canada, Louise found a relative liberation from the stifling formality of the British court. She embraced her role with enthusiasm, supporting local arts and culture and becoming genuinely popular with the Canadian people. Her time there was seen as a personal and public success, offering her a taste of independence she rarely experienced in England. Despite her rebellious streak and occasional clashes with her mother over her unconventional views and lifestyle, Louise maintained a deep affection for Victoria. Princess Louise lived a very long life, dying in 1939 at the age of 91. The 7th child to be born to Victoria and Albert was Prince Arthur in 1850. He quickly distinguished himself from his more restless or intellectual siblings, and he was arguably Victoria's favourite son after Albert's death, due to his steady temperament, keen sense of duty, and marked interest in military life. He was everything his parents hoped for in a son: disciplined, reliable, and deeply respectful of authority. From an early age, Arthur embarked on a dedicated military career that spanned over 40 years. He served extensively across the British Empire, holding commands in places like Egypt, India, and Ireland. And unlike his elder brother, Bertie, Arthur genuinely enjoyed the rigours of army life, rising through the ranks by merit and application rather than simply his birthright. He became a field marshal, a testament to his professionalism and commitment. His meticulous nature and strong sense of decorum made him a dependable figure, often representing the crown at ceremonial events. And in 1879, he married Princess Louise Margaret of Prussia, a union that proved to be genuinely happy and produced 3 children: Princess Margaret, Prince Arthur, and Princess Patricia. His family life provided him with a stable and supportive domestic sphere amidst his military duties. Arthur's career culminated in a significant vice-regal role. From 1911 to 1916, he served as Governor-General of Canada, proving to be an exceptionally popular and effective representative of the monarch. He and Princess Louise Margaret embraced Canadian life, travelling widely and engaging deeply with the country's diverse communities, leaving a lasting impression. Prince Arthur was one of the last of Victoria's children to live a long life. He died in 1942 at the age of 91. In 1853, Victoria and Albert's 8th child was born, Prince Leopold, the Duke of Albany. He was their youngest son and was arguably their most intellectually gifted child, but tragically their most frail. From childhood, Leopold suffered from haemophilia, a debilitating genetic blood disorder inherited from his mother, Queen Victoria, who was a carrier. This meant that his life was a constant battle against bleeding episodes, pain, and disability, often confining him to bed. His condition meant he could not pursue a military career like his brothers. Despite his physical limitations, though, Leopold possessed a brilliant mind. He was highly intelligent, a patron of the arts and sciences, and a passionate advocate for education and social reform. He was a close companion to his mother in her later widowhood, sharing her intellectual interests. In 1882, against medical advice due to his condition, Leopold married Princess Helena of Waldeck, a happy union that quickly produced 2 children. However, the shadow of haemophilia hung heavy. Leopold died suddenly in Cannes, in France, in 1884 at the very young age of 30 after a fall that resulted in a fatal hemorrhage. His premature death was a devastating blow to Victoria. And more significantly, Leopold's illness served as a stark reminder of the royal disease, as haemophilia subsequently spread through the royal houses of Europe via his sisters, Alice and Beatrice. Finally, in 1857, Victoria and Albert's final child was born, Princess Beatrice, known affectionately by the family as Baby. She was destined, in her mother's eyes, to remain her constant companion and unofficial secretary throughout Victoria's long widowhood. Queen Victoria, deeply affected by Albert's death, resisted Beatrice's attempts at independence and her desire for marriage. However, Beatrice eventually fell deeply in love with Prince Henry of Battenberg, a handsome German prince. After much resistance and strict conditions from Victoria, including the promise that they would live near her, the couple married in 1885. The union brought Beatrice great personal happiness, but she remained tethered to her mother's side. Beatrice was tirelessly devoted to Victoria, acting as her confidant, typist, and often her emotional anchor in later life. And after Victoria's death in 1901, Beatrice undertook the monumental task of editing her mother's diaries, a unique insight into the private life of the monarch. This painstaking work involved carefully transcribing and censoring passages, burning the originals, thus becoming a pivotal yet controversial guardian of Victoria's personal legacies. We don't know what Beatrice burned. We don't know what she censored. And that is quite difficult for a historian because we like to see the originals. Beatrice also lived a long life, dying at the age of 87 in 1944, having served as a final living link to the Victorian era and the incredible familial legacy that shaped Europe. From Vicky, the ill-fated Empress of Germany, to Bertie, the jovial uncle of Europe, and Leopold, the brilliant prince whose fragile health carried a devastating genetic secret, Queen Victoria and Prince Albert's 9 children formed a unique and unprecedented royal network. Their marriages and descendants spread across the continent, directly linking the British throne to the reigning houses of Germany, Russia, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Greece, Romania, and Spain. Their ambitious dynastic strategy, while intended to foster peace and stability, also inadvertently intertwined the fates of nations, famously contributing to the outbreak of World War I, where cousins, the Kaiser, the Tsar, and the King of England found themselves on opposing sides. The children of Queen Victoria were more than just names in a royal lineage. They were individuals who navigated immense public pressure, personal tragedy, and profound transformations in European society. Their legacy, both celebrated and tragic, undeniably shaped the course of the 20th century and left an indelible mark on the concept of monarchy itself. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, this deep dive into history, please like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, let me know who shall I look at next.